Clara had always believed that small acts of kindness could change the world. She lived in a cozy apartment in Seattle, filled with books she'd rescued from second-hand stores and plants that stretched toward the light of her windowsill. Every morning, she woke up early, brewing a pot of strong coffee and reading for an hour before heading to her job as a part-time librarian. One warm spring afternoon, Clara found herself passing by a blood donation center. A sign in the window read, "Urgent need for blood donors. Save a life today." She paused, thinking of the dozens of times she'd meant to donate but never made the time. Today, she decided, she would finally do it. The center was busy, with nurses bustling from one bed to another. Clara filled out the paperwork, rolling up her sleeve and taking a seat. As she waited, she glanced around the room. In the corner, a young man lay on a gurney, his skin pale and clammy. His dark hair was matted to his forehead with sweat, and he looked more like a frightened boy than a grown man. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Clara saw the fear in his gaze. She offered him a small, reassuring smile. The nurse moved quickly, prepping Clara's arm and making small talk to distract her from the needle. But Clara's focus kept drifting back to the man in the corner. When the nurse finished, she gestured to the young man. "He's in desperate need of blood," she explained quietly. "We're trying to keep him stable until his family can be reached, but he's in real trouble." Clara didn't hesitate. "Take what you need," she said softly. "I'm happy to help." As the blood flowed from her arm, she thought about the young man's family, whoever they were, wherever they were. She imagined his mother's panic, his father's worry, the way they would hold their breath until they knew he was going to be okay. In that moment, Clara knew she'd done the right thing. When the procedure was finished, the nurse pressed a bandage to her arm and gave her a grateful nod. Clara stood and glanced back at the young man one last time. He was asleep now, the color returning to his cheeks, his breathing more even. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, even though he couldn't hear her. She left the donation center feeling light, her heart buoyed by the thought that she'd done something important. Clara didn't expect thanks or recognition. She'd always believed that kindness didn't need a spotlight. It was enough to know she'd helped, even if no one else knew. Back at her apartment, she made herself a cup of tea and curled up on the couch. She thought about the man in the hospital bed, hoping he would wake up and find his family waiting for him. She didn't know his name or his story, but in a way, she felt connected to him. Two strangers whose paths had crossed for just a moment in time. Days turned into weeks, and Clara went back to her usual routine. Long walks around Green Lake, quiet afternoons spent shelving books at the library, and late-night dreams of traveling the world. She thought of the blood donation from time to time, but she never dwelled on it. It was just a small, selfless act, a moment of compassion in a busy world. What Clara didn't know was that the young man she'd saved would never forget her. That moment of kindness, that gift of life, would follow him through every twist and turn his future held. And someday, when she least expected it, he would come back, not as the scared boy she'd seen in the hospital, but as someone who had found success, purpose, and the will to repay a debt of gratitude that had shaped his destiny. Years passed. Clara's life moved forward quietly and steadily. She never forgot that young man's pale face, but it slipped into the back of her mind like a dream she couldn't quite remember. She spent her days surrounded by books, tending her small garden, and sharing tea with her friends in the community library. Then, one rainy afternoon, a knock came at her door. Clara wiped her hands on a dish towel and opened it to find a tall man standing there, rain dripping from his tailored coat. His smile was warm and familiar, in a way she couldn't quite place. "Clara," he said softly, his voice deep and steady, "do you remember me?" She hesitated, taking in his expensive suit, his neatly styled hair, and the kindness in his eyes. There was something about him that tugged at her memory. Then she saw the small scar on his arm. just below where she had given blood years ago. "Oh," she breathed, realization dawning. "It's you!" He nodded. "My name is James Turner. I was the young man in that blood donation center years ago. You saved my life, Clara." Tears sprang to Clara's eyes as memories flooded back. "You survived," she said. "I'm so glad." "I didn't just survive," he told her. "I thrived. After I recovered, I was determined to make something of my life. I worked hard, studied business, and built a company from the ground up. Today, I'm the CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country." Clara listened in stunned silence, her heart swelling with pride and surprise. James smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I searched for you for years," he said. "I wanted to thank you in person, not just for saving my life, but for inspiring me to live it fully. Your kindness gave me a second chance." Clara swallowed, her voice trembling. "I'm just glad you're well. That's all I ever wanted." James shook his head. "You deserve more than that. You gave me the gift of life, and I want to give you the gift of the life you've always dreamed of." He handed her a small, beautifully wrapped envelope. With shaking hands, Clara opened it and gasped. Inside was an offer letter, an invitation to join his company as an ambassador for their charitable foundation. The position included a generous salary, travel opportunities, and the chance to work with communities around the world. "I know you've always wanted to see the world," James said, his smile gentle. "Let me help you do that. Let me repay the kindness you showed me." Clara's tears fell freely now, her heart overflowing. "James, this is too much." "It's never too much," he said firmly. "You taught me that one small act of kindness can change everything. Let me do the same for you." She accepted the offer, her spirit alight with a newfound sense of purpose. Within weeks, Clara was on a plane for the first time in her life, her passport clutched in her hand as she gazed out the window at the world she'd only ever read about. She traveled to Africa to help build libraries in rural villages, to South America to teach children to read, and to Europe to restore old museums and bring history to life. Everywhere she went, she carried with her the memory of that single day when she'd offered her blood to a stranger. And in every smile she saw, every child's hand she held, she felt the echo of that one act of compassion, multiplied 1,000-fold. James visited her often, his company's private jet whisking him around the globe. He never let her feel alone, always reminding her that her kindness had started everything. And in quiet moments, Clara realized that life had a way of repaying kindness in ways she never could have imagined. She had given life to a stranger once. Now that stranger was giving her the life she had always dreamed of, and she was living it with all the wonder and gratitude in her heart.